Hello everyone, welcome to this video tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to be painting a mince pie. So you should be able to access the photo reference for this, and I also created a line drawing for you on the description below in the video. So you can download it from the link. I edit it in Canva, so you will be able to access that and print it, and also the line drawing which is in there. In the description I also have placed all the details of the materials I'm using on this painting. So I hope you follow me through and enjoy this tutorial. Okay, so the colours we're going to be using are the burnt sienna, get it right in a minute, burnt sienna, phthalo blue, but you can use any blue you have, it doesn't matter, because we're only going to want a tiny bit of this for those little highlight circles that you can see on the reference photo. So you can achieve these but just using the Windsor Violet, which we will use that as well for some of the background here, and we could use it for this colour if we mix it with a bit of Payne's Grey. So I got the Payne's Grey out. The Payne's Grey is more like a grey blue, and this will be great to mix with some of the colours to make them darker, and also we could use it for some of the background here. The other colour I'm going to be using is the yellow ochre. The yellow ochre is going to be a lot for the pie itself, and we're going to play with the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna for this. So the inside of the pie is going to be burnt sienna, but we're going to create a mixture of burnt sienna and permanent rose as well. And you can use any rose you wish. It doesn't have to be precisely these colours. I will, like I said, put the details in the description below for the paints that I'm using, but you can go for similar colours. So if you want to take a reference now, a screenshot of these colours, this might help you to get the colours you want if you don't have these paints. This is the burnt sienna. This is a Payne's Grey. Now the Payne's Grey can be lighter if you add more water to that. It almost becomes like a grey blue colour. It's a beautiful colour. And this colour and this colour mixed together, you can create this colour. This colour, we can use it in the centre of the pie, sort of inside the pie, and we can go darker and darker with the Payne's Grey every time we want to add more colour on here. Now for these two, I also used a little bit of the pink to make this colour. So literally it was the three colours mixed, but I only, like I said, added a little bit of the pink because I wanted more like a warm colour, much warmer than this. So we could go even darker. The Windsor Violet, like I said, that's probably for the background. Green colour, I used the blue and the yellow, and I mixed that to get as good as a green as that one. Now you can add more water to make it lighter as well, and that will be good for some of these little reflections, and I will show you how to make those later on. And we will be using a tool which is this, is a ruler, and is a metric circle template ruler. You can get this anywhere. Hobbycraft, Amazon, anywhere, and I bought it ages ago and I thought it was quite handy, so I always play with these small sizes to create the circles for the background will be. So we don't need those right now. We're going to be doing the background towards the end of the tutorial. So I have got my paints on a palette here, but I will be mixing them on a little ceramic bowl because I find it much better mixing on a ceramic bowl because the paint spreads better on the plate than on the palette, plastic palette. So I have got, I'm going to put my paints aside now because I don't need them. Now for the brush I'm using is a round size 1 brush. Now I don't think we're going to need anything bigger, to be honest. We might do for when we create the background, the whole wash of the background. We could use a 1/2 inch flat wash brush, sorry. So 1/2 inch flat brush, and is quite small. So we can go even smaller if you want, just to do the background later on. So I have a clean tissue on the side to help me. I'm going to put the photo, I'm going to prop it on the side, and I don't need those right now, but like I said, you can do a screenshot if you wish. Let me just get it in the right angle for you. So if you want to do a screenshot, that will be great, and that gives you an idea of what colours you're looking at. So I have got a jug of water, and that's it. So we're not going to use any masking fluid for this. So I have drawn the pie and a bit of the plate here. I haven't bothered about doing the circles for the background because we will do that later on. I positioned it near enough the base, a little bit more than what it is on the photo. And the size I'm using is a 5.5 inch by 6 inch paper. Now the paper I have is 100% cotton, so I fully recommend to get 100% cotton paper if you can. And it can be, this one is hot press, but you can do cold press if you wish to as well. It's not, there isn't really an issue on that, so whatever suits best for you, and you can grab your hands on to. So, so we're going to start with the mince pie, why not, eh? We're going to start with the pastry. So I'm going to wet my brush. I'm going to give it a clean because I have used it for mixing my swap paints on the paper. And I've got quite a lot of yellow there for some reason, but never mind. Right, so I'm going to grab the yellow ochre and I'm going to put it on my plate. I don't want too much. I want this really pale. So we're going to make it very watery. Because we're going to apply the first layer we're going to apply is going to be very pale. We're just going to paint the pastry that we can see on the reference photo. So we're just going to go all the way where you can see that pastry, and if you place the paint on your paper and it's a little bit too strong, then clean your brush and move that paint around to make it lighter in sections if you want to. Now there's one thing I did forget to mention, and because I have done pencil here, I'm going to lift it a little bit more because it is actually making it a little bit mucky, my paints, and I don't want that pencil to show too much. So we're just going to dab it and clean it. Lift it a little bit, sorry, to make it lighter colour. I hope my camera is still focusing on this okay today for you. I have worked really hard to get the camera in the right place and the focal point. I have it connected to my computer as well, so I can see what you can see. And so far, I think it is in focus. Right, so I'm just lifting as much as I can of the pencil because I want this clean and nice and tidy. So just get the pencil that was around here somewhere. Right, okay, here we go. So we're going to carry on applying that colour all around where I can see pastry. Don't worry about the darker shadows here as well. Just apply the pastry where you can see it, because later on when you go darker on top, that will cover that bit anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. So I'm going to go here. And because we're going quite light, you can still see the pencil drawing, so you won't get lost. And if you can see where the grooves that are darker, you could always place more paint there as well, just to help you a little bit afterwards. So what I mean is the indentations here on the reference photo, so these bits here are quite dark, so you can apply a little bit more of that yellow ochre on there. And where it's lighter, just apply less. And like I said, don't worry if you go on some of the actual pie. It doesn't matter, because like I said, we're going to go dark on there. We're going to change this a little bit more as well afterwards. Now there's something to consider, that there is some bright lights, reflections on the pie in the actual, inside on the dark bit. If you look at your reference photo, you can see really, really light reflections there from the light that has caught. Now, we can leave those with the white paper when we go and do the mince inside the pie. You can leave it with the white, or we can apply gush afterwards if you want to, which is the white gush. Whatever is easier, because I know by experience that accidentally when you're learning, it's very easily to miss that and then go, oh no, I covered my whites now, I can't get them back. Now you can lift watercolour paint. They do say that you can't get rid of it, but you can lift it. But also it doesn't always lift as well as it should, as like white paper. But you can sort of help it a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to concentrate here. Hang on. Just adding a bit more colour there, and there is a shadow here. So now I'm going back in the same painting, just applying where the shadows of the same colour are, so I don't lose the painting, sorry. I've got too much water in my brush at the moment, and I've got too much water in here. So let's just get a little bit there. That's it. Now I've forgotten what I was saying. I'm going to go around the edge of this because the edge is a little bit darker. As you can see on the reference photo, where the shadow of the pastry, where it's overlapping. So we need to make that a little bit darker. Now we could have left this to dry, but because we're making such a small area, it doesn't really matter because it will be dry by the time you get around it. Okay, there's a very dark section here, and this little bit here, and coming up. So now you can sort of start shaping those grooves that you can see on the pastry by adding a little bit of this colour. So look at your reference photo and see where the light and the shadows are. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you get it not quite right, because that will be your interpretation of this painting, and there's so much we can get very similar. It's not always easy, so we can only do our best, and you're creating your own artistic license, which is what makes it more fun. So I want that there, and I want a dark bit. So I'm looking at my reference photo and I'm spotting all those darker bits that I can see of this colour. There's a groove here. Don't know why I made it coming out too much, but never mind. Now there's a bit there that is quite dark. This section here is quite dark, and don't worry if you can see quite a rich brown, almost like a brown colour, because we will be adding the burnt sienna later, and that's going to make it darker and richer colour, like a reddy colour. Now the side here is a little bit darker. I've got a bit of dust there. Okay. Now this bit here has got lots of little dimples, so I'm going to apply that there, just dabbing a little bit here and there, and there's a few grooves, so I'm going to try and represent those grooves there as well. This little bit here, I'm going to make that point there. Okay, I'm going to pin this little one here. I totally forgot. Now, I'm not too bothered about it because for some reason I left it. I put the tape too far, and it doesn't matter. So there's a very dark section here, but we will use that when we're creating the mince meat inside. I'm sorry if you can hear some noise. I hope you can't hear that. I have young people downstairs and they're watching a film, and it's very loud, as they do. So we broke up from school today, and it was the last day, and my youngest son still goes to school. He's on his last year now, and I work at school as well, so I'm on holiday now, which is great. Okay, and my oldest has finished work. He's got holiday as well, which is great. So I hope wherever you are going to be having a wonderful Christmas too. Okay, so we're done the pastry, just about. Now I'm going to go over, and I think we will probably go and try and do the mince meat inside, and we're going to make that with burnt sienna. So I'm going to take my colour out of my palette. I'm going to pick burnt sienna. I don't want it too strong. I want it just very weak at the moment. And that's going to help me to touch up on parts of the pie that are like almost like a burned colour. It is quite cooked colour, and I can see that in here. I'm going to soften it. So always remember to soften the edges when you're doing this. So apply the paint a little bit at a time, then use the damp brush to move that paint so it doesn't look hard. It doesn't have a hard line on the edges, by applying a little damp brush. If that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense. So just making those little colours that I can see on there. Now, it might be that I need to go darker here a little bit more on the ridge here. Okay, so I'm going to leave it. I will come back to that. So I'm going to look at my reference photo, and I'm going to apply the dark sections that I can see again on the reference photo. And just remembering to soften the edges every time you do this. And on the bottom here underneath, as the pastry is curled, and I can see another bit here. It's a little bit darker. Okay. Right, I'm going to try and create those darker sections that I can see in the middle here, because otherwise I will lose them. And that is quite annoying when that happens. So, I hope you are hearing me okay, and you are trying to paint this painting at the same time as I am. That would be fantastic. Like I said, if you haven't got yourself sorted yet, you can just pick up the reference photo and the line drawing and get them printed, get them on your paper, and follow this video along. And press play when you're ready. Now, I don't know if any of the viewers for this video today can they use mince pies wherever you are, but in Britain we do have mince pies. And I'm pretty sure the whole Britain has mince pies. There could be some parts of Britain that don't really worry too much about mince pies. But where I live, we certainly do. I think most of this area of England, they do. And if you don't know what the mince pie is made of, the mince pie is not made of meat. It used to be made of meat back, Back a long time ago, let's put it that way, they used to be made with mince meat when the festive times started. But nowadays is made with, I tell you what, I will put the ingredients below to tell you what they're made of and then I don't get it wrong. So I'm trying to get that corner. That's quite dark, that bit there at the end. I think we're going to go a little bit more. And I need to lift it. So if you do go over a section that you're struggling with, just lift it with a damp brush. So just dampen your brush and dab it on the tissue because you don't want it wet, just want it damp, and lift up that paint that you just placed there. Not only will give it a very smooth edge, but it will lift the paint that you didn't want to apply there. Now this mince pie is actually mine. I had a good bite at this mince pie, preparing the reference for today. I did this the other day, so my family were wondering what on earth I was doing. But I explained this is for a video, and people are going to want to make this painting, hopefully. Right, it's quite dark here. And don't worry if you start painting and it feels like, oh, this is not going anywhere. It will. All paintings go through a funny stage, and they also go, what they call it, an ugly stage. And before you know it, your painting will start making sense. You go nice and slowly and just follow the painting process, then you will discover that will start making sense. To be honest, I feel the same way many times when I create my paintings. I just don't know what I'm doing half of the time, and then all of a sudden it starts making sense and I think, oh yeah, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Let's carry on. Keep going. Right, so down here, the dark, very dark sections, and I don't know if you, I better explain it. The very dark sections in the pie, like this corner here, this little section here, and down here as well, is quite grey. And I'm very tempted to use the Payne's Grey for this, just because that will help me to get it right. So, and just to place those colours there, because otherwise you lose them. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of the Payne's Grey. I don't want it too dark. I'm going to try and find where that section was. So it's around here, and it's just to shape it as well, to give it a shape, because I'm sort of losing the shape now. I'm getting worried that I will lose it. So I can see that little gap as well. of the pie. And it has got, the more I look at it, the more you can see things in the pie that you didn't think they were there. Okay, so I'm sorry if you have missed a little bit. I'm not sure if you have, but I looked up and the camera had stopped. So I'm hoping you haven't missed anything. So what I'm doing is I'm lifting a little bit of highlight that I can see. I'm applying that burnt sienna in all those dark sections that I can see also on the picture. And just now to give it the shape that it needs to, sort of making it a bit more 3D. So I'm looking at the shadows from the pie to shaping it up a little bit more. We're not looking for perfection, we're just looking for some sort of understanding what they're drawing, what is in the drawing, if you can do that. So still using a size 0 brush. Now I can see little dents here as well, so I'm going to try and apply them. Right, I'm going to put some music on for you while we're doing this. So just keep on following around with the burnt sienna and going on the pastry now. And I'm going to play also with the yellow ochre just to bring back the top of the pie. Okay, so I am going to try and do a bit more of the shadows and shaping now where the colour of the mincemeat is, and looking at the highlights and those shadows and shaping the whole thing a little bit more. And I don't try to replicate it completely because it's almost impossible. That mincemeat is quite difficult to replicate. It's too much going on in that middle bit. So we can only do our best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a bit of the burnt sienna now. And I think by creating the dark sections, it's going to help us see a little bit better what's going on there. So with the burnt sienna and the Payne's grey, we're going to create a very rich brown. So I want that to be a warm brown. So picking up more burnt sienna, you can see how almost like chocolate colour now. Bit more Payne's grey. Oops, that's gone quite a lot of Payne's grey there, but that doesn't matter. I can add a lot more burnt sienna because I'm going to need a lot of this. Okay, so if you wanted this to be a little bit richer, like red, a bit red on it, you can by all means apply a bit of red if you want, or you can apply a bit of pink as well, but it might change the colour completely. So I'm going to go with the brown, and I'm going to go on this dark section that we spotted earlier that we were trying to do. So the shadow underneath the top lid of that pastry. And I'm going to go all the way around, and I'm going to just make it rough as well. Try to use the highlight, the light part of the pastry as the highlight, I suppose. That makes any sense. Try and create negative painting by painting the shadow and reshaping your light sections of that pastry. So where you can see the edge of the pastry there, just apply a little bit lighter consistency because that's not going to be so dark. So, and then when the darker bits are, we're going to go deeper. Okay. So we're going to go a little bit more here. At the top, I'm going to start reshaping the lighter mincemeat that is on the reference photo, and around the edges as well. Constantly looking at my reference photo to help me with this as well. So I damp my brush and I clean it in a tissue, and I'm just moving that paint a little bit out a little bit more just to shape those little sections of the pie that are not dark brown, but they are grey and has got like a tone colour there, sort of biscuity. Okay, so that's looking better. Yeah, so I can see now there's some lines as well, so I'm using that colour to help me make those little lines. That's looking much better now, and I want dark, so keep on looking where your darks are and then soften where it goes a little bit lighter by applying a little bit more water and move that paint where it becomes lighter. Right, so this one has got like a little caramel, it almost looks like a caramel drop on there, and I'm going to try and replicate that, but it is very, very bouncy and it's quite red. So I'm making little circles and I'm leaving little white bits, and where I can see that shine as well, I'm trying to leave it there. Okay, so I'm going to have to be careful because some of these is not as dark as some other bits. So you can see now that this is the center bit where I was trying to make it really dark has got lighter again. So we're going to need a much deeper colour. That's fine. I'm just going to go around the edges now just to bring it up to where the highlight is. Try not to make it too dark and give it a soft edge there. That's got a bit of biscuit there and I got a bit of drop there. Okay. That's a bit of the biscuit there, so I'm going to make little indentations to replicate where that biscuit is. And this one here, this little section here that we're leaving quite light, I can start applying a bit of that brown in there so it doesn't sort of kill some of that, not kill, but get rid of, sorry, some of that reflection, because it isn't that that white, it is hiding a little bit underneath the lid. It's getting a little bit of the reflection from the lid. There's another bit there as well, so I'm going to try and lift it a little bit with the brush. My brush is still damp, and I'm trying to pick up some of those crumbs just to give it a bit more body where it is, a bit more 3D. And there. So if it's not moving, then use the damp brush to help you. Okay, it's coming along nicely. So I'm going to try and do this one a little bit better. So that is almost needs it's like a folding lip here. So I'm going to put a little bit of the brown, very light. And I'm going to be very careful because there is a lip here. Don't want to cover that up. And that's quite dark there. This is very orange, the top bit, so I want to bring that down a little bit. Need a bit of more paint, I think. It's almost porosity here as well for the biscuit. Pastry I meant, not biscuit. Now that's got a very yellow tinge about it, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the yellow ochre to this now so we don't lose it. It's very easy to lose that colour. And I'm going to apply it on the top as well. And then it will show that there is a little lip over. Now there is a highlight in here as well. So what we're going to do is going to damp the brush, clean your brush, because it's got a lot of that yellow ochre. And then I'm going to lift it just a tiny bit where the bottom bit of the biscuit is meeting the shadow. So I'm just going to lift it with a brush. And because we will go darker later, and then undab it with a tissue, pick it up with a tissue. And there you go, we're bringing it back. So if you can see that, it's just there. We will go there afterwards and apply a little bit more of the colour. So I want a bit of that brown as well in here, in the inside of that crevice. It's like a little indentation of the pastry, and this one as well. Soften it if it's too dark. Okay. Now that shape is almost lost, so I'm just going to wet it and damp it around and make it a bit more round. For some reason it's gone. Okay, the top of that little bit of the biscuit, we want that quite gold colour, so I'm going to look for those little indentations here and apply a bit more, sort of like crumbly texture. And that's shaping your pie a little bit better, the crumbs and how this pie is turning out. So I'm playing now with the yellow ochre and the mixture that I have, the brown mixture, with both colours. where I can see it on the photo reference, sorry. Now this one is a little bit more square for some reason. It's just lost its shape, so we're going to go and make it a little bit more gold colour. Make it lighter there, because it is lighter over that side. If you don't fancy doing this side of the pastry, by all means just carry on with the other side. It's not with the rest of the pastry, or keep on going with that one if you want. I do like to swap every now and again, because I like to keep it dry, to let it dry in those sections and then come back to it afterwards. So I didn't do this bit very square, because it's almost square, or like a rectangle shape. Right, it's not showing very well. Let's play it with a darker colour a little bit more. And then I want to shape it with a yellow ochre. That's it. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. That one is quite rich. This bit needs to be a little bit lighter and more golden colour. And I'm going to lift it with a paper as well. I'm going to let it dry now. So I'm going to try and do this again. I want a rich burnt sienna to this now. Okay. So I have got the burnt sienna there. I'm just going to clean my my tube brush, my tube paint, because it's got paint all over the tip of the tube, and if I close it and leave it, it will be very difficult to open, because the paint obviously dries and it seals the lid in there. It's extremely difficult to move. Right, so we want burnt sienna now, and I'm going to pick it up from the palette, and I want to start working on that shadow. So I'm going to make that shadow more intense now with that colour. And I'm going to try and avoid those little sections that I wanted to leave and make it look crumbly, and I can see the crumbs inside the shadows. So this is the really, really deep section that you want to create on here. Just work around it. And just rotate your brush if you need to. Circular motions. Use a damp brush as well to move the paint a little bit if you want. And we will go darker on this as well. Okay, and down here it's quite rich, quite strong. Looks very dark, so I might need to use a different colour later. Add more Payne's grey perhaps to this as well. Now this little section here, it's almost like caramel colour. It's like a little drop that's coming down. And it's quite difficult to get it spot on. Okay, right, that's looking better. So I want a bit more up here as well. So this bit is more brown here. So I'm going to mix that burnt sienna again in the plate where I had it before. And I'm going to apply that there. And I want the burnt sienna very pale as well on parts of this because it is a bit like caramel on some sections. It's not quite rich and dark. And being very careful not to get those the highlights. Trying to leave the highlights there. There's a lot on this side, but there's also some highlights. And a bit more there. This bit here as well. Because now you can look at the tiny little bits that you can see on the reference photo, little crumbs that are inside the mixture, the pie itself, and the highlights. You can work with a lighter colour of the burnt sienna around that. And just dot little dots. So even though it's not going to look too dark in these sections here where I'm applying the Payne's grey, because that will dry lighter. So I'm looking there where I can see on my reference photo where the very, very, very dark sections are, and I'm applying that Payne's grey. So looking everywhere where I can see a very, very dark areas. For some reason I didn't make the biscuit base that obvious, but it is what it's going to be. Just looking everywhere I can see the rich colour and leaving some whites. And then we're going to go over again with caramel colour. Okay, so it's really dark now. I'm going to make this even darker because it really needs to be darker. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix it with the brown again, with a burnt sienna. And I want it quite a thick consistency, really creamy. So my brush is damp when I'm mixing this, so you can see how thick that is. I can make it even thicker than that. I want a bit more Payne's grey, so I'm going to clean my brush in between changing paints and dabbing it in the tissue and picking up the colour to mix it. You can see how rich that is now and creamy. So I'm going to go over again on that dark shadow. It should be dry by the time I go around again. This is going to help me much more to shape the biscuit, not the biscuit, the pastry around a bit more. And play with those shadows where I can see them on the reference photo. It's coming down here, and down here as well. And it's funny because once you start doing this, you can start seeing actually this is not as dark as I thought it was in that area. It starts changing a little bit and you think, oh no, I actually want a little bit more red in there. That's fine. So we can add a bit more of the burnt sienna here. I'm picking up very rich amount of burnt sienna to this section. And I'm letting it mix on the paper. So gradually mixing on the paper. And it'll start making more sense now. Right, so this area here is very toffee, like caramel colour, and I still haven't got quite that colour. So I'm going to pick up that dark brown and I'm going to apply that on this area that I can see. Damping the brush, and I'm going to try and reshape that because it has got the little grooves on it, so you can lift it from the base where you place the paint and drag it up to make those grooves. It's quite dark in here. The light sections will start showing even more once you do this. I want a bit more burnt sienna, so a rich amount of burnt sienna. And I want it here as well. And I want it on this section here, so I can see little grooves. So try to replicate those little grooves. Try not to worry too much with the brush. If you do feel like the brush is too big, then by all means, please go for a smaller brush, like a size 1 or even size 0. So just using the tip of my brush to lift that paint. I'm trying to replicate the mince meat inside. And I'm still trying to leave some of those highlights. And don't worry if you do lose them, we can go back with some gush. If you do have some white gush colour, then you can use that. Okay, I think that's a little bit of biscuit there and a little bit there. We got a bit more. There's quite a rich, almost like plum colour, but I don't think it is plum. So I'm going to dab a little bit of this dark section here. We could always mix a bit of violet in here, and we could use the pink, or we can use the pink and the Payne's grey to get so we can use the pink and the Payne's grey and we get a purple colour. You could do that too, parts of it, just to make it a bit richer. So I'll try and replicate what I can see. Almost, I suppose, it's the little raisins inside there. Which are quite dark. Okay, so okay, I want a bit more rich colour. Just play with the colours that you can see in this reference photo. Almost looks like a little building, this. Oh, I lost that highlight. There we go. Just lift it up quickly with a damp brush. It might not be 100%, but it will be close enough. Or you can use the tissue like I just did. So I want burnt sienna on this section here because it is quite caramel. I want to replicate that. Okay, not sure about how yours is coming along. This certainly is coming along nicely. I'm quite pleased how it's progressing. Now I'm going to look at the shadows that I can see on the pastry as well, which I'm touching it up now. Those little grooves of the biscuit. Oh, I keep on saying biscuit, sorry, pastry I meant to say. I'm going to try and make this a bit thicker down here as well. I want it a little bit lighter there. Lifting the paint a little bit here. Right. I want to make this a richer colour, so I'm going to add Payne's Grey, quite strong colour. And then I'm going to soften the edge and I'm going to lift it a little bit. Make little grooves. Okay, right. And it is a little bit dark at the top. So let's make it a little bit darker here, around the biscuit area. I think it's going to be a biscuit area because I keep on getting it wrong, so okay, that's a little bit more there. Let's make it, bring it in. So just realised that highlight there is not a line, it's just a little highlight of crumbs incorporated in the mince meat. So that other colour is richer now. You start seeing the difference now, so it's starting to look like a mince meat is there, or something is quite dark, and it's taking shape. And the whole picture will start making sense. So I'm using a little bit of what I have in my brush just to shape that shadow there of the biscuit. Oh gosh, the pastry I meant to say. I was going to get it wrong again. So I want the violet is what I'm saying. Oh, I'll get it right in a minute, sorry. Just trying to figure out what I'm doing. So I'm using the violet for the shadows on the top of the pastry as well. Very, very diluted. And there. Try not to make this too big because I think I made it too big earlier and it wasn't making any sense. And this is quite dark here, so I need to bring it up towards the top bit there. And I want to lift a bit of that pastry, I meant to say. I'm afraid this is going to be a long video. And I'm just thinking whether it might be best to do a part 2. Just because it is a long video. So now I'm trying to reshape the pastry here by using almost like earlier I explained a negative. And it goes like this. Sorry, I'll get it right in a minute. So I'm going to lift that because I didn't want that there. And I wanted a little bit more of the burnt sienna and there instead. Okay, that's good. And then that one is going to meet that one. Okay, I don't think I'm going to get this exactly right, but it's going to be as good as. So let's pick up a little bit more of that Mince violet. And I'm going to try and make this shadow here. And that's helping me to get that defined a little bit more. And on the edge here of the pastry, we're circling around, we can see the grooves of the pastry. Okay. Right, so we want the yellow ochre on the top. I'm going to smooth it. Okay. Now that needed to be a little bit warmer, so I'm going to use the yellow ochre again. It's very easy to lose your colours if you're not careful. because that bit, it is very strong in gold colour. And I want to make the ridge here a little bit lighter. There is a lighter tone there on the ridge. Where the pastry is flat is that top section here is flat, and it's not showing on my painting at the moment because I haven't got that highlight on the edge there. So I'm going to bring it up with a bit of tissue. That's better. And that's coming all the way to the end here, pretty much. Okay. That's looking more like a ridge now. That little bit there is a little bit more like it has got like a warm, very pale brown section here. So I'm going to apply that. It's sort of defining that little beak area. I messed up this area here. I don't know what I did because it was supposed to be bigger, but for some reason it wasn't. And you could always make it again by pushing that paint with, lifting it with a damp brush and a tissue, and you can reshape it again. It doesn't matter if it was really, really dark. So we can do that, it's not a problem. Yeah, so I did lose it a little bit. I don't know what I did there. So easily done. Okay, as you can see now, it looks better, I think. I will define that later. I will shape it, the dark in here, just to bring it back, but got to wait for that to dry. Right, so I'm going to go back to that brown that I was doing. It's only till then that I realised I lost that shape.